Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry I can't be with you all in person today, but I want to thank you for letting me say a few words. First of all, I want to congratulate Ray Dempsey from my home state of Illinois and wish him the very best as the presumptive national commander of DAV. I also want to recognize and honor my great friend Tammy Duckworth for receiving DAV's Outstanding Veteran of the Year award and for all her remarkable service to our country. You know, Tammy, we're so proud of you in Illinois. And I want to thank all of you. Your sacrifice has made possible the freedom that we enjoy. Keeping the faith with those who serve must always be at the core of American values and a cornerstone of our patriotism. America's commitment to its servicemen and women begins in enlistment, and it must never end. Without that commitment, I might not be here today. My grandfather enlisted after Pearl Harbor, and he went on to march in Patton's army. My grandmother worked on a bomber assembly line while he was gone, and my mother was born at Fort Leavenworth, Texas. When my grandfather returned, it was to a country that gave him the chance to go to college on the GI Bill, to buy his first home with a loan from the FHA, to move his family west all the way to Hawaii, where he and my grandmother helped raise me. Now, I knew him when he was older, but when I think about him now and then as an enlisted man, a man of 23, fresh-faced with a wise guy grin, I see the same thing that I see in our best and bravest young men and women signing up to serve today. They're signing up at a time when the dangers we face are great. And when they finally return home and the guns fall silent and the cameras are turned off, they deserve the same commitment from their government that my grandparents received, especially our disabled veterans, who have given more than most. We know that over the last 8 years, we've often fallen short of meeting that commitment. We learned about the deplorable conditions discovered at places like Fort Bragg and Walter Reed. We've walked by a disabled veteran whose home is now a cardboard box on a street corner in the richest nation on earth. We've heard about what it's like to navigate the broken bureaucracy of the VA, the impossibly long lines, or the repeated phone calls for help that get you nothing more than an answering machine. It doesn't have to be this way, not in this country. There are many aspects of the war in Iraq that have gone inalterably wrong, but caring for our disabled veterans is one thing we can still get right. When I arrived in the Senate, I sought out a seat on the Veterans Affairs Committee so I could fight to serve our veterans as well as they've served us. I led a bipartisan effort to improve outpatient facilities at places like Walter Reed, because recovering troops should go to the front of the line and they shouldn't have to fight to get there. We passed laws to give family members health care and a year of job protection so they never have to choose between caring for a loved one and keeping a job. And I fought to make sure that the claims of disabled veterans were heard fairly. But there's so much more we need to do to keep our sacred trust with the men and women who serve. That's why I've pledged to build a 21st century VA as president. It means no more red tape. It's time to give every service member electronic copies of medical and service records upon discharge. It means no more shortfalls. We will fully fund VA health care and add more vet centers, particularly in rural areas. It means no more delays. We'll pass on-time budgets. It means no more means testing. It's time to allow every veteran into the VA system. It means standing up firmly against those who would ration care so that the VA only serves vets with combat wounds. It means rejecting the idea of turning the VA into just another health insurance card and instead making sure it gives all our veterans world-class care. And it means we'll have a simple principle for veterans sleeping on our streets. Zero tolerance. No more homeless veterans. I'll also build on the work I did in the Senate to confront one of the signature injuries of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, post-traumatic stress disorder. For far too many troops and their families, the war doesn't end when they come home. But only half of our troops returning with PTSD receive the treatment they need. And that's why I've helped lead a bipartisan effort in the Senate to stop the unfair practice of kicking out our troops who suffer from PTSD. And when I'm president, we'll enhance mental health screening and treatment at all levels. We also need more mental health professionals, more training to recognize signs and to reject the stigma of seeking care. And we need to dramatically improve screening and treatment for the other signature injury of the war, traumatic brain injury. That's why I passed measures in the Senate to increase screening for these injuries, and that's why I'll establish clear standards of care as president. And when our loved ones return home, It's time we offered them the same commitment we offered my grandfather's generation, by giving every veteran the same opportunity that he had under the GI Bill. That's why I was proud to be a strong supporter of my friend Senator Jim Webb's 21st Century GI Bill that recently passed through Congress. It will provide every returning veteran with a real chance to afford a college education without harming retention. That's the kind of commitment our returning heroes deserve. Recently I had the honor of visiting wounded soldiers in Iraq and at Walter Reed. And despite their injuries, despite the loss of a limb, or even their ability to care for themselves, none of them will ever lose the deep sense of commitment that they feel to their country. That, after all, is what led them to wear the uniform in the first place, their unwavering belief in America. It's the idea that no matter where you come from, or what you look like, or who your parents are, this is a place where anything is possible, where anyone can make it, where we take care of each other, where we rise and fall as one nation and as one people. It's an idea that's worth fighting for, an idea for which so many Americans have given that last full measure of devotion. And I still remember the day we laid my grandfather to rest in the Punch Bowl Cemetery, the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. In that cemetery, lined with the graves of Americans who sacrificed for our country, we heard the solemn notes of taps, we heard the crack of guns fired in salute. We watched as a folded flag was handed to my grandmother. It was the nation's final act of service and gratitude to him, an America that stood by my grandfather when he took off the uniform and it never left his side. That's the commitment America made to her soldiers. That's the commitment you've made for more than 85 years to our disabled veterans. And should I have the distinct honor of being your Commander-in-Chief, I will lead this nation in rededicating itself to that commitment, to serving those who have worn the uniform of the United States as well as they've served us. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.